Office of Special Investigations for the Air Force, where the same exact individual worked. So if you don't mind, Maze, I'd like to pass it off to him, and he can explain what it actually turned out to be.
Sure, I would pass over, but just to be clear, everything that you're going to cover with us today has already been made public. So there's no classified information where anybody can get in trouble and shit. Look, I got to watch, just want to make sure that everything that we discuss has already been somewhere, either talked about in a space or put on the internet, just for, kind of housekeeping. And then, yes, and hi, welcome, Richard. Jump in.
Well, real quick, Rick, I want to respond to that. Yeah, the majority of it is actually classified, but I've already, like I said, I've already put it on spaces, I've already put it on posts, and a lot of it's already been leaked, just with like 20 different accounts of the same story. And I'm just saying this is the one true account, and this is how I know it. Plus, here's some other stuff that's never been leaked. So, with that, go ahead, Rick.
Good evening, everyone. This is Richard Doty. About a month ago, a little over a month ago, I was on a space where Charles told his story, and during the time he was telling the story, there were several other people in former positions that I had intelligence, not necessarily counterintelligence. Some of them that were listening were in another part of the other side of the intelligence community. But anyways, during that, a former OSI agent sent an email out to several of us within a certain group. And that email, which I have right in front of me, said this. It said, Charles was involved in a counterintelligence operation called Operation Society Hike, Hike. This was a complex project to recruit certain members of different societies and provide them with information related to governmental operations. The goal was to prepare the assets for future clandestine operations and vet them for secretive covert missions. Contact started for Charles, as said in the late winter of 2003, and contact continued until 2012 when contact was terminated based on Charles's involvement with law enforcement. Now, since that email, and since Charles has come out on Twitter or Space, there's been literally hundreds of other emails that were passed between intelligence personnel regarding Charles. And because the information that Charles is sending out, a lot of that information is contained or was released. It's been leaked out for 40 years. Probably the beginning of the internet information regarding Serpo and some of these other stories that he talks about was spread throughout the internet. But there are certain things that Charles is talking about that hasn't been released. And those are the things that concern me and some of the other intelligence officers, is that number one, if Charles was never actually recruited in intelligence, or if he hadn't been in the military or a civilian working for the government, how did he have access to this information? Now, that's a good question. We know who Charles Mentor was. He was, in fact, a field operative within the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, Special Projects Branch, which involves counterintelligence, counterespionage operations. And so he was one of many involved in Operation Society Hike. And he passed away about 8 years ago. So we can't go back and ask him anything. But some of the other OSI agents that were involved in Society Hike has come out through our group and talked about what Society Hike was. And it wasn't just, Charles wasn't the only one. There were literally hundreds of other younger people recruited, and they were vetted and prepared for future enrollment or recruitment into intelligence. Now, if Charles hadn't become involved in law, in the law enforcement in 2012, or the judicial system, he probably would have been, when he turned 18, 21 or so, brought into intelligence, and then probably would have had a mission and probably would still be doing that now. But it was terminated in 2012. But everything Charles is saying, with exception just a few things that I don't know about, because I left government service in 1988, with the exception of the time I spent with Dr. Putoff up until 2007, which I still had access to classified information. Some of the things I don't know about, but these other OSI agents, I think a couple of them are listening right now here, were involved in this operation. But the question I have, and the question that the other agents have, and only Charles, and maybe Charles doesn't even know, is why he was briefed into some of these highly classified programs, which I don't know if they're still classified today. I don't think they are, but he knew about them. And in the position that he was in, why did his mentor, the senior OSI agent, brief him into these type of programs? So that's what I know about it.
Very cool. Okay, wow. So thank you for that. I did read I think you put an article in one of these compilations that I read about Project Serpo once. So it's really nice to meet you. And thanks for coming up to explain all that. And just for the record, I want to make sure that you don't go over anything classified that you have not already made public, Charles. Like whatever you've already put out there. By the way, I put your link in the nest, acclimatenow.com. So for those of you that want to see any of the information that he's already made public and go through it on your own time after the space, it's in the nest. So make sure you bookmark that. And so, yeah, did you want to respond to him? And if not, do you want to kind of, I guess, tell us about how do you want to prioritize the information? What do we want to go over first? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people wondering, what the hell is Serpo? And we can kind of crack that open. And that's the same as Project Crystal Night. It's just two different agencies that refer to it differently, correct?
Yes. DIA refers to it as Project Crystal Night, and which were actually running. They were running Point actually. Air Force and CIA refer to it as Project Serpo, which is the name of the planet when translated to English that they went to back in 1960. Well, they got there in 1966, but they left in 1965. But yeah, I want to respond. Yeah, as far as what you said, Rick, why? That's funny you asked, because as I was telling the story a minute ago, and like I tell other people, regardless of Project or Operation Society Hike that I found out about, I still am firmly convinced that my mentor broke the law by telling me a lot of the shit that he told me and showed me, because he told me, and I know this man, or I knew this man, and he told me that he would keep camera equipment in different places, all from Kirkland to Edwards to Edwards. For those that don't know, we're talking Nellis Air Force Range. We're talking Area 51. We're talking MacDill Air Force Base down Florida, where Special Operations Command is located. We're talking, Dayton, all over the place. But his main place, I'm pretty sure, was out of Kirkland. I think you'd have to answer that for me. But anyways, that he would keep camera equipment in there, and he would sneak film in and out, or negatives in and out, and he would. That way, he didn't try to sneak a whole camera in and out every time. And he would take these documents, and he would take pictures of page 1, page 2, all the way through, completely unredacted. Now he redacted some names and stuff like that, but then he would sneak the film out and he would develop it himself, and then he would have full-fledged classified material, and he kept boxes. He's got a treasure trove. I don't know what he did with it when he died, but he's got it. And that's what I was briefed on. Now, as far as including me in Operation Society Hike, I don't think he told the main supervisor or any of the coworkers or you or anyone else that might have knew about it or heard about it later in life now, I don't think the information was even available for them to know that he included things that I really don't believe he had permission to tell me, mixed in with things like Serpo and MJ12 and a few other things he was clear to tell me because, I mean, he also told me about the counterintelligence, the whole thing. So a lot of people don't know if they think when you hear counterintelligence, that means everything's a lie. No, you counter bad intelligence as well, and counter espionage. You counter good and bad espionage works and back and forth. I mean, you know more about it than me, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone listening, when you hear that I was part of a counterintelligence operation, that doesn't mean disinformation or lies. So before I get into the
Well, yeah,
information,
let's
Rick, do
talk
you have
about
anything?
that because that's the first thing I thought. I was like, well, typically, whenever there's counterintelligence, then what I thought that meant is to be able to kind of weave in a layer of lies. And so it would be pretty, apparent as to where that information or what level of like clearance or, you know what I'm saying, that information was released at. Maybe, I guess we can talk about that and then we'll jump into Roswell and all of that stuff. So go ahead, Richard, if you can answer that.
Yeah, counterintelligence. There's a number of different types of counterintelligence. The main purpose of counterintelligence is to protect highly classified special access programs. For instance, the reverse engineering, just for an example. There's a number of counterintelligence operations that the government takes to protect that from disclosure. And that could include disinformation, or we don't call it disinformation. We call it deception operations, and or other things, recruiting people that will travel to Russia and tell Russia a different story and things like that. That's counterintelligence, and that's how counterintelligence is used. Counterespionage is different. Counterespionage is trying to counter the espionage threat against the U.S. And we do that by recruiting our own spies. We refer to them as double agents, and send those double agents to our enemies with information that would fool them and thinking something else other than what the true nature of a classified operation is. So that's the difference between counterintelligence and counterespionage.
Okay, and in this situation, what you read is that this was both, right?
Well, obviously, I was never involved in Operation Society Hike, but the information coming from another OSI agent who was involved, and he's, I think, in this room right now, I'm pretty sure he is, that involves recruiting people in their younger years and then conditioning them for intelligence life when they get older. It's similar to an operation that was started by the Air Force back in the 1950s, late 1950s, where they would recruit teenagers or even 10, 11, 12-year-olds. And over a period of 10 years or 12 years, they condition them for pilot training. They pick them early. They prepare them for that mission within the Strategic Air Command to maybe take a one-way mission into the Soviet Union and dropping bombs. The government had an operation back in those days, and this has been open source, and there's people that were even involved in the program have come out and talked about it at UFO conventions and other places. So this is similar. A Society Hike is something similar that wasn't known to the public, but the intelligence community was trying to find the right person to recruit and train, because it's not easy necessarily to find the right person to train for secretive operations. If you do it over a period of years, they're more apt to be conditioned to do something that you tell them to do behind enemy lines or something to that effect. So that's what I can tell you about Operation Society Hike.
real quick, Maze. Hey, Rick, I guess what she was asking was